Doom doom to doom. Doom doom to doom. Doom doom to doom doom to doom doom to doom. Okay, let's have some fun with this. You want to have and you want to know how to have conversations about prenups. And when it came out in Grey News, it has this lovely picture of a bride and her groom between the horses. And we'll get to the horse metaphor in a few minutes. This is a really big concern with farm families as values of farms continues to grow and farm families do experience divorce. And it's not just the younger people carrying bouquets up the aisle. It can also happen with the older couple. So you want to protect your farm in case of a divorce, and understandably so. And can you do that with a prenup or an interspousal agreement? And the answer is yes. If it's valid and enforceable and you include the right provisions, your farm can stay in your possession even in the worst case scenario of divorce. And prenups can also supplement your estate planning documents and help you to protect the farm in event of death. For instance, your mother's died, your dad gets remarried, then what? So a well-crafted prenup, you can cultivate peace of mind, which I think is what everybody is looking for, that your farm continues to grow under any circumstance. So that is the introduction to my insight here. And it talks about the source being helloprenup.com, which you might like to visit. So I'm not a lawyer and I don't give independent legal advice. I'm Elaine Frey's farm family coach. And I'm here to help those of you who are couples who might be almost married, because those are those of you who are living common law who think, oh, I'm not married. Well, yes, actually you are in the eyes of the law after you've been together for a couple of years. So I want you to consider ways to approach the conversation. And an elderly farmer who had a single successor was really panicked about the fact that he wasn't sure that the son's marriage was going to be okay. And so as a coach, I did the talking for him. It took less than 5 minutes because once I broached the subject, the daughter-in-law said, well, yes, of course, Elaine, if it's well written and if it also protects the children and my husband and I don't plan to get divorced, but if that should happen, I understand that there's a lot of value at stake in the farm. So sometimes we can be creating angst when we don't really need to be. So another one is a case where I had people with a corporate farm, a shareholders agreement, and it stated in the shareholders agreement that everybody who's a shareholder needs to have a marriage contract. And that was a condition of being a shareholder of that farm corporation. So you can see how people are making it part of their business risk management policy and then part of the professionalization of the farm and not leaving any risk to marriage breakdown. So what do you need to get ready to create such agreement? First of all, you need to know your own personal assets and what you own of your farm assets. Secondly, you need to be clear about your intent. Your intent is not to cause harm. Your intent is not to cause a divorce. Your intent is not to judge people, but you're doing this for business reasons. And obviously, when we're getting married, we're not thinking about getting a divorce, but we realize that many marriages fail. And in our case, too, with our succession transition coach, we had the divorce conversation because we want to talk about the what-if scenarios. So you need to seek independent legal advice. Each of you as a spouse needs a different lawyer. And if you don't know of a good lawyer, you can ask around for referrals, or you can go to cafanet.ca to find that out. Your language of approach is really important with your partner, your fiance, or your spouse. And it needs to be clear and respectful because your goal is alignment of understanding what this document actually represents. And you want to have a spirit of collaboration, not a spirit of fear. And I remember one time this young bride crying over the phone, Elaine, they don't love me. My in-laws are judging me. I go, whoa, stop, time out. You're getting married into a dairy farm. And on said dairy farm, there has been a marriage of a prior person in the business, your fiance's relative. This is standard policy for this farm. And guess what? It's like a life insurance policy. You do your agreements and then you file it. You have it for protection, but hopefully you're never going to use it. It's just like life insurance. You file life insurance and you don't go looking at your life insurance every day and say, are they judging me if I'm going to die or not? No, it's a tool for risk management and good financial planning. here's the other news flash, folks. Guys with farms are dating women with farms. And so we have two farms coming together, and how to keep those assets separate. That can happen with young farmers today, or it can happen with someone like my friend Fran, who remarried in her mid-70s, late 70s. She was bringing her farm assets from her widowhood, and he was bringing his farm assets from his widowhood. And the two of them were joined together, but obviously they wanted to keep their assets separate. And don't be cheap. This is not do it yourself. Get good legal advice and pay what it takes. And while you're at the lawyer, update your power of attorney, update your will, see if your executors are still willing to do that job. And know that different laws happen, and Saskatchewan's laws are way different than the rest of Canada. So it's just really important that everybody gets good legal advice and makes an investment in protection for the future. Now, pulling in the same direction is a beautiful thing, and I think that's why they chose this picture. Two draft horses. Well, those aren't draft horses, those are palominos. I know the difference. Anyway, the idea is when you come together in a marriage, you become one unit, and two can make a better than one. And it's a very biblical principle that a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken, especially when you start winding those first 2 strands together. And so I'm hoping that as you're listening to this, you're thinking about, wow, this seems like another document and another hassle. But again, every farm that touches mine is divorced. I've seen it happen in my neighborhood over and over again, and it's not a pleasant reality. And you can protect against this by having a conversation and talking about your expectations and getting your values into alignment about why a prenup, marriage contract, or an interspousal agreement would be a good thing for your family, for harmony, and to protect the farm business assets going forward. And you can do this. And most of all, focus on being rich in relationship and cherishing each other and paying attention to your marriage. Because if you pay attention and you have love and respect in your marriage partnership, you aren't going to get divorced. See you next time.